Violence continues to escalate in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in a conflict that has killed thousands and displaced millions in the last few months. The United Nations has confirmed widespread atrocities in the east of the country, including summary executions of children and sexual violence committed by the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group. While Kigali denies any involvement, the Congolese government has accused Rwanda of trying to destabilize the region and extend its influence. Joining me now to discuss the situation in the DRC are Kambale Musavuli, an analyst with the Center for Research on Congo-Kinshasa, and Claude Gatebuke, a survivor of the Rwandan genocide and executive director of the African Great Lakes Action Network. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on UpFront. Let me start with you, Kambale. Let's talk a little bit more about the M23. They've made significant territorial gains in North Kivu province, and they've also promised or threatened to take over the capital, Kinshasa. In fact, the United Nations is telling us that they are planning for, I quote, long-term occupation and exploitation of conquered territories. Now, the M23 rebels have actually set up administrative structures in areas that they've taken over. For example, the census, a tax office, a police force, and even new police chiefs beyond just the DRC. To what extent does that threaten stability in the entire Great Lakes region?
For all intents and purposes, when we're talking about the M23, we should always mention the Rwandan Defense Forces, not because I say so, because the UN report, which was submitted to the UN Security Council, clearly demonstrate that. Not just allegation, but photos, right? Video evidence, photographic evidence, drone surveillance footage of Rwandan Defense Forces in southern the Congo. So the Eastern Protocol, particularly the Kivus, is under military occupation by a foreign force with the M23. This parallel government is also allowing them to maintain control for a long period of time. Beyond the administrative network that you are referencing, they're controlling the mines, right? The Rubaya mine, the largest coltan mine in the world, is in the hands of the M23. The UN group of experts states that at least $800,000 is made in taxation just coming out of the mine, right? And the illicit trade. So the long-term plan that they have is tied to extraction of resources and also collecting resources to maintain their forces. This is why it's so pressing to continue to put pressure on Rwanda to stop supporting the M23, because the M23 will not exist without the military backing of the Rwandan military.
Speaking of that military backing, Claude, you are a survivor of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. In fact, you were only 14 years old and you survived death in the context of this ongoing conflict. You know, anybody who's been to Rwanda, especially in the aftermath of the genocide, you could see, you could literally smell the indescribable trauma and suffering, the mark that this genocide made on the Rwandan nation. What do you make of Kagame implying that the M23's actions in the DRC are about protecting Rwanda from these alleged perpetrators of the genocide?
Invoking our trauma, the genocide that I survived, luckily, is using it as a pretext to go and commit genocidal atrocities in the Congo is what is happening. The fact that what you smell, what you feel, what you see, even the sounds that we lived during that time is being exported, and the Congolese people are living those things today. And they are living it at the hands of someone who actually claims, Paul Kagame and his military, who claim to be trying to prevent another genocide, in fact, is a sickening thing to survivors. And anybody who cares about human life, who has seen these type of atrocities, will take a stand against such a thing. The other thing is, you asked about the threat to regional stability. The region is already unstable because obviously Congo is a major, not only in the region, but in Africa. It's a major important area for the whole continent and for the whole world, obviously, with all these minerals. And now the attacks in South Kivu, in the southern part of the Kivu areas, is threatening Burundi. In North Kivu, we've got Uganda involved, and so the whole region is under threat. As long as Congo does not have peace, the whole region's peace in the whole region is under threat.
Kambale, you talked about the mining activities and so on, but in early February, the president of the DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, reached out to US President Donald Trump, offering him those very minerals that you both are talking about in exchange for a formal security pact. In fact, he wrote a love letter to President Trump, and I quote, he said that your election has ushered in the golden age for America, highlighting the potential for US to secure vital minerals like cobalt, lithium, copper. What do you make of this strategic relationship that is being suggested here by Felix Tshisekedi?
I think it's a sign of desperation from the Tshisekedi regime in trying to seek international support, particularly from the United States, forgetting that the United States is already quietly involved. The U.S. is a bilateral supporter of Rwanda through its military, so it's kind of interesting to see that. That's on one hand. On the other hand, as you analyze it, is you should know that it's actually in complete contradiction with what the Congolese people want. As soon as the letter was made public, the civil society in DRC, particularly in provinces where the minerals are, have put out an open letter, right, a public letter available to everyone, saying that we, the Congolese people, we are not in support of the action of the president of the Congo for literally leveraging Congo's resources without any due process. You know, in any normal country, there is a process. It should go to the parliament, it should go to the Senate, there should be discussion. The president can just make a decision such as taking the country's minerals and giving it to the United States. So for me, it shows that there is a sign of desperation.
I mean, we know last week the president of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, and Kagame, they met in Doha where they voiced a commitment to an immediate, I quote here, an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. But it is the M23 that has rejected these calls, stating that anything regarding us, which are done without us, it's against us. I mean, is a peaceful resolution possible without M23? And are these two leaders trying, at least as we saw in Doha? I'll give you a chance, Kambale, and then I'll come to you next, Claude.
For what took place in Qatar, Qatar has interest in the region. They've invested over $2 billion, be it in Rwanda and also in DRC. Qatar is interested in supporting that project. So there is money involved. You know, Qatar is not doing it just being a benevolent leader, right? So I don't think that these negotiations, right, will bring any fruits if we don't discuss what we keep forgetting. Every time there is peace negotiation, there is a clause that is quite problematic. It's amnesty. Those who committed crime yesterday are given amnesty. So as we're even talking about discussing the M23 now, if you have family in Goma, right, and you know that 9,000 people died in Goma, they are telling Congolese that we're going to go to the negotiating table and completely ignore the deaths of 9,000 people. So when we continue to this, that's why we keep saying it keeps happening. Years after years, a few decades, the fact that we're ignoring the question of justice, those who commit the crime, all they know is I have to pick up the gun and commit the same crime. That's why it's so critical to look at the UN mapping exercise report. This documented the crimes committed in the Congo from 1993 to 2003, saying that what is happening in the Congo are war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possible genocide, and call for the creation of an international tribunal so that the crimes in Congo can be tried. And I know the ICC has an investigation right now. They're opening a situation in DRC for the crimes that have taken place since 2022 to present. But the civil society in the Congo, the Congolese people, we believe that peace will not come if we don't deal with the question of justice. And dealing with the question of justice, we have to hold the perpetrator of violence accountable.
Okay, so you agree with that, right, Claude, that a peaceful solution must entail justice and accountability?
100%. There is not going to be lasting peace or prosperity in the region unless the perpetrators are held accountable. People are incentivized to be violent, as Kambale just said. All you have to do is pick up guns, take over some territory, and then set up some type of peace negotiation, and then you get amnesty. But somebody who steals a goat or some banana or something will end up going to jail, versus somebody who just massacred 9,000 people in the city of Goma. So it's important and imperative that justice is centered as part of a lasting solution. You asked the question about the fact that the M23 is left out of the conversation, or was left out of the conversation in Qatar. I keep saying that the M23 is represented in all of these conversations because the leaders of the M23 are Rwanda's military, led by Paul Kagame, Uganda's military, led by Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda. There is no M23 without Rwanda's military. There is no M23. They cannot do what they're doing without that kind of support. We have seen it in the weapons. You see the equipment. I mean, when you look at rebel groups, either in any part of the world, people are wearing sandals and, and tank tops and stuff like that. These are the M23, on the other hand, it looks and acts and works like a conventional military. Now, the fact that they claim that they're not included in the conversation, if the international community takes the action that is taking on Rwanda and actually stop funding Rwanda's government, stops buying minerals, these conflict and blood minerals from Rwanda, the M23 will be no more. The M23 is for all intents and purposes, the Rwandan Defense Forces.
Claude and Kambale, thank you very much for talking to us here on UpFront. We'll leave it there. Thank you. That's it. That's our show for this week. UpFront will be back next week. Goodbye.